In this session, we will consider the Agile versus Waterfall delivery proposition from the perspective of visibility, ability to change, business value, and risk management. First, let's look at visibility. You can see from the chart the delivery of a traditional project has a high interest during the initial setup as the analysis to understand requirements is undertaken and the cost to deliver the solution calculated. Then there is the period where those tasked with carrying out the work are no longer the focus of attention while the allowed delivery time is consumed. However, as delivery dates come around, the project comes back into the spotlight for stakeholders, and it is this point realizations are made that the upfront analysis was not as thorough as believed, assumptions made were not as valid as expected, and actual costs to deliver grow beyond that as agreed in the planning of the project. With a Scrum-based delivery, the deep cycle of upfront analysis and long delivery times do not occur. Using the sprint cadence and events that support the sprint cycle, stakeholders remain in regular collaboration with the Scrum team or teams delivering the solution. In the ability to change, by the time a traditional project enters its first delivery stage, any deviation from the expected plan beyond small changes within tolerances requires an exception to be thrown, often resetting the project back into a full analysis cycle. This extreme reaction to change makes those involved reticent in being prepared to do so, preferring instead to work a problem until they have to admit there is no alternative or to deliver a partial solution in the expectation that they will deal with instability through a change request raised during a stabilization and hardening phase. With Scrum, product backlog items are not decomposed into delivery requirements in a big upfront design, but only fully planned out during the sprint they are delivered. This leaves much more flexibility in understanding requirements while allowing the Scrum team, along with their stakeholders, to react to change understood through emerging knowledge or from market influence and take advantage of this in the first attempt at delivery. This is not to say there is no impact on the ability to change, as every decision made has a cost if later reversed. For example, once a decision is made, it will be delivered using the Java programming language and supporting platforms. Any decision to move away from that as the core programming language would have a significant impact. Therefore, although the ability to react to change remains much more flexible, some decisions will be more significant than others. The business value chart that most Agile versus Waterfall or traditional project management is one where I feel strongly that there is a habit when evangelizing on either method to choose the best version of your preferred way of doing things, while comparing it to the worst way of the alternative that you don't support. The reason behind this is these charts always refer to the simplistic Royce waterfall model, when in practice, for over a decade, Waterfall has been delivered as a phased project planning system, and I would rather see this chart with 3 phases in the waterfall model. However, for the purpose of working towards the Scrum.org syllabus at this level, it is better to use this simplistic model which they refer to throughout their own materials. I guess for the next iteration of this module, I will create a new one of these charts instead of using the same one that does the rounds. It still does give the understanding that traditional waterfall models deliver no value until the full Big Bang release, therefore deferring any value delivery until that point. The principle behind Scrum with its potentially shippable product at the end of each sprint is that value should be delivered in this cyclical manner of no more than 1 month. I would suggest you want to deliver value as early and often as you can, even daily or more frequently, where the product being worked on allows and the product ownership supports that. One of the big issues where Scrum is claimed not to work is where the selection of sprint goals and supporting backlog items does not form value-based deliverables. This tends to come from unfocused planning or release-based planning of the product, and in that situation, value is deferred until the Scrum team hits that release point. If these releases are left long enough, this becomes no different than waterfall release planning and can result in a product that takes as long to deliver any value while costing more due to the people involved in the team throughout delivery. For the purposes of Scrum and applying your learning in an assessment, you want to understand that at the end of each sprint, as a minimum, there should be a potentially shippable product that if the product owner believed there was value in sharing with users or market-based customers, they could do so. This introduces the idea there could be multiple levels of value. There could be value in releasing a very small business value to internal users to get feedback and show you are moving in the right direction. But you may not yet include external customers until there is a value they can use for the product for, and that provides a return to the organization, even if that value was only feedback from its customers. Risk is another area of significant difference between traditional waterfall and agile delivery processes. In a waterfall method, risk is managed via risk registers, taking account of proximity, or what stage in delivery it is likely to occur if it does happen, an impact, or what the likely effect on the overall project if the risk was to occur. In taking this view, traditional waterfall carries its risks until delivery has been completed in full, and no risk can be excluded until the release and stabilization of the product or service occur. With Scrum, one of the prioritization options available to the product owner is to prioritize the product backlog based on risk. This does not mean that they must order every single item based on the likely risk. However, if they have backlog items that the product would be made undeliverable if they were not included, then it makes sense that the product owner and development team take this item on as early as possible and prove whether the product can or cannot be delivered. In this way, Scrum can de-risk product backlog items by taking those items on as early as possible, and if you're going to fail, then fail fast. Better to fail a product at £50,000 instead of £50 million.